The garden stretched as far as the eye could see, filled with towering crystal flowers that reached toward the twin suns of the Floran homeworld. Soft light danced through their petals, creating rainbow patterns on the moss-covered ground below. Elder green stood motionless among them, their leafy form barely distinguishable from the surrounding plants. Only the gentle pulse of bioluminescence beneath their outer layer showed they were not just another tree in the vast garden. Something was wrong. Elder green could feel it in the nutrients flowing through the soil network that connected all Florans. The signal from the outer colonies had changed. Where there once was a steady stream of peaceful thoughts and growth patterns, now there was nothing. Elder, a younger Floran named Seed, approached, their normally bright blue glow dimmed with worry. The fourth garden has gone dark. All communication has stopped. Elder green's leaves rustled softly, a sign of deep concern among their kind. The fourth garden was their newest paradise world, transformed from a barren rock into a living ecosystem through centuries of careful work. 5 million Florans lived there, tending to the gardens and sharing their peaceful existence with the galaxy. "Show me the last transmissions," Elder Green said, their voice like leaves whispering in a gentle breeze. Their root tips connected to the nearby communication pod, a living computer grown from the same crystal flower hybrid technology that powered their civilization. The images that flowed through the connection made their sap run cold. The fourth garden's surface was being systematically destroyed, not by natural disasters or solar flares, but by something else, something that moved with purpose and precision. The final moments of the transmission showed massive dark shapes moving through space, their crystalline surfaces absorbing all light that touched them. "Call the council," Elder Green commanded. Within moments, the garden around them transformed. Crystal flowers grew and shifted, forming a circular chamber where the 12 oldest and wisest Florans could gather. They arrived one by one, emerging from the ground through root networks that spanned their world. "We have lived in peace for 10,000 years," Elder Green began, sharing the images with the others. "We have turned dead worlds into gardens. We have shared our art, our music, our ability to nurture life with all who wish to learn. But now, for the first time since the Great Blooming, we face something we cannot transform with kindness." The council chamber filled with soft sounds of distress as the images played out. The Florans had no words for war in their language. They had never needed them. Their society was built on growth, creation, and harmony with all living things. "There are more ships coming," Seed reported, their glow pulsing with urgency. "They will reach the third garden in 7 rotations, the second garden in 15, our homeworld in 30. The council erupted in a chorus of rustling leaves and flashing lights, their version of urgent discussion. They had no weapons, no shields, no way to protect themselves. Their ships were designed to carry seeds and terraform barren worlds, not to fight. "We must seek help," said Elder Green, causing all movement in the chamber to stop. In their entire history, the Florans had never needed to ask for help. They were the ones who helped others, who taught the galaxy how to turn lifeless rocks into thriving ecosystems. "But who?" asked another council member, their flowers drooping. "The trading species care only for profit. The wanderers have no fixed worlds to defend. The Empire is too far to reach us in time." Elder Green's outer layer rippled with colors as they accessed the galactic records. There was one species, new to the stars, but old in fighting. A species that had grown past their violent beginnings, but maintained the ability to defend what they cared about. A species that, despite their short lives, showed remarkable dedication to protecting life in all its forms. "Humans," Elder Green said, the unfamiliar word causing ripples of light through the chamber. "We must contact the humans." The council's glow dimmed collectively. Humans were barely known in the galaxy, having achieved faster than light travel only 50 years ago. They were seen as primitive, unpredictable, dangerous even. But Elder Green had studied them carefully. Unlike the other species who dismissed humans as simple warriors, the Florans had seen something else in them. an unshakable drive to protect, to nurture, to help others survive against impossible odds. "Send the signal," Elder Green commanded. "Send it to every human ship and colony we can reach. We offer them our wisdom, our resources, our friendship. In return, we ask for their help in protecting the gardens we have grown. The galaxy's most peaceful species must join with its most determined defenders, or all we have created will be lost forever." The Star Wanderer drifted through the quiet edge of known space, its white hull gleaming under distant starlight. Captain Walker stood at the bridge window, watching the endless field of stars. His ship was 3 months into its exploration mission, mapping the territories beyond human space. The crew of 40 had settled into their routine, but today felt different. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Tom at the sensor station. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing screens. It's like a garden in space." Walker walked over to look at the readings. The object ahead was small, about the size of a lifeboat, but it was literally growing. Thin crystal vines spread across its surface, blooming with flowers that glowed with soft blue light. "Life signs?" Walker asked, adjusting his worn captain's jacket. "Yes, but nothing like I've seen before. It's not using oxygen. It's more like, well, like a plant." "Sir." Walker made his decision quickly. "Bring it in. Carefully. Tell medical to set up quarantine procedures, and get Rogers from biology down there." The rescue pod, if that's what it was, fit easily in their cargo bay. Up close, it was beautiful. The crystal flowers pulsed with light in a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. The crew gathered behind safety barriers, watching as Rogers approached in a containment suit. Before she could touch it, the pod opened like a flower. Inside were 3 beings that looked like they were made of living glass and leaves. Light flowed through their bodies in waves of color, and they moved with a grace that made them seem like underwater plants swaying in a gentle current. The universal translator hummed to life as one of the beings stepped forward. Its form shifted, creating what looked like a mouth. "We are Florins," it said, its voice surprisingly clear. "We come seeking help from the humans. I am Bloom, speaker for my kind." Walker had studied most known alien species during his training, but he had never heard of the Florins. "I'm Captain James Walker of the exploration vessel Star Wanderer. You're safe here. Can you tell us what happened?" The 3 Florins gathered close together, their lights pulsing in sync. "Our worlds are being destroyed," Bloom said. "We are a peaceful species. We create gardens from lifeless worlds, share our knowledge with all. But now something comes that destroys everything we have built. Our rescue pod barely escaped as our colony died." Rogers stepped closer, her scientist's curiosity obvious even through her containment suit. "Your pod. It's alive. All our technology lives," the smallest Florin explained, its voice like wind through leaves. "We grow what we need, nurture it, help it evolve. But we never learned to create things that destroy. We never saw the need, until now." Walker thought carefully about his next words. First contact situations were delicate, and these beings had clearly been through something terrible. "We'll help however we can. But first, let's get you somewhere more comfortable than our cargo bay." Over the next few hours, the crew converted the ship's hydroponics bay into a temporary home for the Florins. The plant-like aliens seemed to draw strength from being among the growing things. They shared their story in more detail, showing recordings of the attack through a crystal device that grew from seeds they carried. The images showed massive black ships that seemed to drink light itself, methodically taking apart a beautiful garden world. The Florins explained how their settlements were vanishing one by one, how their peaceful species had no defense against such destruction. "But why come to us?" Walker asked. "There are older, more powerful species in the galaxy." Bloom's colors shifted to deep purple and gold. "We have studied all species since we reached the stars. Most seek power, or wealth, or knowledge. Humans are different. You fight, yes, but most often to protect. You see beauty in growing things, like we do. You understand that life must sometimes be defended. The Floran turned to face the stars visible through the hydroponics bay window. Your history shows that when the weak ask for help, humans cannot turn away. When others would stand aside, humans stand up. We do not wish to fight, Captain Walker. We wish to protect, to preserve, to grow. Will you help us learn how? Walker looked at his crew, saw the determination in their eyes. Humans had always been explorers, but they were also defenders of what they believed in. And if there was one thing humans believed in, it was standing up to bullies, no matter how big they were. We'll help, Walker said firmly. We'll need to contact Earth, get proper authorization, but we'll help. No peaceful species should have to watch their worlds die. The Floran's glow brightened until they lit up the whole room, their gratitude visible in every pulse of light. For the first time, their fear began to fade. They had found not just allies, but perhaps something even more valuable. Friends who understood that peace was worth protecting. The Galactic Council chamber was enormous, built inside an ancient space station that orbited a dying red star. Representatives from 50 species sat in rising tiers that circled the central speaking floor. Their voices echoed off the metallic walls as they argued about the Floran request for help. "This is absurd," boomed the metal lord of the trading worlds, his mechanical body gleaming under the chamber lights. "The Florans want us to support their alliance with humans. Humans barely know how to build proper starships." Bloom stood calmly in the center of the chamber, their leafy form glowing softly. Behind them, Captain Walker represented Earth, trying to hide his amazement at seeing so many alien species in one place. He noticed how some looked at him with curiosity, others with clear disapproval. "The humans have already helped us," Bloom said, their voice carrying clearly through the chamber. "When our rescue pod was found, they did not hesitate. They offered shelter, respect, and understanding." "Understanding," laughed a floating cloud of gas that represented the ancient minds. "Humans understand only war and profit. They fought 3 world wars before reaching space. Their own planet still bears the scars of their violence." Walker stepped forward, keeping his voice steady. "Yes, we made mistakes, terrible ones, but we learned from them. We learned that strength isn't just about fighting. It's about protecting what matters." The chamber erupted in a mix of angry shouts and dismissive laughter. The council head, a tall being with silver skin, raised all 4 arms for silence. "The Florans have always been wise counselors to this council, but this request is unusual. Why do you trust these humans so completely?" Bloom's colors shifted to a deep, serious blue. "We have a gift that few know about. We can sense the true nature of other beings through the living energy they carry. Humans burn bright with life force, and yes, some of that comes from their capacity for conflict. But there is more." The plant-like alien moved to the center of the chamber, raising their arms. The lights dimmed as Bloom began to glow brighter. "Let me show you what we see when we look at humans." The chamber filled with floating lights of different colors. Walker watched in wonder as images formed in the air. Human doctors treating sick aliens on frontier worlds, Earth ships diverting asteroids from populated planets, colonies sharing their food with refugee species during famines. "In 50 years of space travel," Bloom continued, "humans have saved more lives than they have taken. Their warships protect trade routes from pirates without asking for payment. Their scientists share medical discoveries freely. When they find a beautiful world, their first thought is not to take it, but to preserve it." "Pretty lights don't change facts," the Metal Lord growled. "They are primitive, dangerous." "They are exactly what we need," interrupted another Floran voice. Elder Green emerged from the chamber's garden section, their ancient form commanding immediate respect. The council fell silent. Elder Green had not left the Floran homeworld in over a century. "Our worlds are being destroyed," Elder Green said. "The Void Collective consumes all in its path. We could hide behind the stronger species here, beg for their protection. Instead, we choose to stand with humans, not because they are the strongest, but because they understand what we fight for. Walker felt every eye in the chamber turn to him. He thought about Earth's history, about all the times his people had fought not for gain, but to protect others. "We're not asking for the Council's permission," he said. "We're here out of respect for galactic law. But with or without your approval, we will help the Florins." The Council head leaned forward. "You would fight the Void Collective alone. They have destroyed 3 Florin worlds already. What makes you think you can succeed where others would fail?" Walker looked at Bloom and Elder Green, then back at the Council. "Because we're not fighting alone. We have something the Void Collective doesn't understand. A partnership between those who create and those who protect. The Florins can grow worlds from nothing. We can defend those worlds. Together, we're stronger than any destroyer." The chamber went quiet. Elder Green's glow brightened with approval. Even some of the doubtful council members seemed thoughtful. The Florins had always been right about important matters. If they sensed something special in humans, perhaps it was worth considering. The council head spoke again, softer this time. "Very well. The council acknowledges this alliance. But know this, humans, the galaxy will be watching. Show us that the Florins' trust in you is justified." Walker nodded, feeling the weight of that responsibility. Beside him, Bloom glowed with a mix of hope and determination. The most peaceful species in the galaxy had chosen humanity as their defenders. Now they had to prove that peace and strength could work together to create something new, something that even the Void Collective couldn't destroy. The observation deck of the Star Wanderer was silent except for the soft hum of machinery. Root, the young Florin scientist, pressed their leafy hand against the window. Their usual green glow had turned a worried blue as they watched the stars. "There," Root said, pointing to a patch of space that seemed darker than the rest. "The void ships eat light itself. That's why we see nothing but darkness where stars should be." Captain Walker studied the star charts on his tablet. 3 more colonies had gone dark in the past week, 2 Florin gardens, and 1 human mining outpost. The Void Collective was no longer just the Florins' problem. "Tell me more about their ships," Walker said, setting down his tablet. "Every enemy has a weakness." Root turned away from the window, their colors shifting to show patches of deep thought. "They are like living crystals, but dark and cold. They absorb energy of all kinds, light, heat, even the life force itself. When they take a world, they leave nothing but empty rock behind." The door slid open, and Tom rushed in with new sensor data. "Captain, we've got something. The void ships, they're not completely dark. They give off tiny energy pulses, like a heartbeat." Root's glow brightened suddenly. "Yes, they are alive in their own way. Like us, but empty. Hungry. Always hungry." The young Florin moved to the science station, their tendrils connecting to the ship's computer. "Look at these readings. The crystal structures are similar to ours, but twisted." Walker watched as Root and Tom worked together, human and Florin combining their knowledge. The Florins' deep understanding of living crystal technology and the humans' experience with defensive systems were starting to create something new. "What if," Root said slowly, their colors pulsing with excitement, "we could feed them something else, something that would fill their hunger?" "Like what?" Walker asked, moving closer to see the designs Root was growing on the screen. "Life itself," Root answered, "not to destroy, but to change. Our crystal ships carry the seeds of entire worlds. If we could adapt them, make them stronger, more determined." Tom's eyes widened as he understood. "We could give the void ships exactly what they want, but instead of letting them destroy it, we let them choke on it, like filling a black hole with light." Walker watched as Root grew a small crystal in their hand. It glowed with gentle green light, then suddenly sprouted tiny leaves. "Our ships are alive," Root explained. "They grow, they adapt, but they have never needed to fight. Your ships know how to fight, but they are cold metal. Together, perhaps we can create something new." The captain nodded slowly. The idea was crazy, but it made a strange kind of sense. Humans had always been good at taking existing things and finding new ways to use them. And the Florins understood life in ways that humans were just beginning to learn. How long would it take to test this? Walker asked. We have been preparing, Root admitted, their color shifting to a slightly embarrassed purple. Many of us have been working with your engineers since the alliance began. We have seeds ready. Walker smiled. Of course they did. The Florins might be peaceful, but they were far from simple. They had seen this possibility even before the humans did. An alarm blared through the ship. Tom jumped back to his station. Captain, long-range sensors just picked up void ships. A whole fleet of them, heading toward the Paradise System. Root's glow dimmed with fear. The Paradise System. Our oldest gardens are there. Millions of my people. If it falls. Walker put a hand on Root's shoulder, feeling the smooth, cool surface that was so unlike human skin, yet somehow just as alive. It won't fall. Not this time. He turned to Tom. Send word to Earth Command. Tell them we're ready to test our new defense system. And contact Elder Green. We'll need their permission to modify the Florin ships. Growing weapons, Root said softly, looking at the tiny crystal garden in their hand. We never thought we would see such a day. Not weapons, Walker corrected gently. Tools of life. The Void Collective thinks they can destroy everything they touch. We're going to show them that life fights back. Not with death, but with more life than they can possibly consume. The dark patch in space grew larger on their screens, but for the first time since the attacks began, both humans and Florins felt something new growing alongside their fear. Hope. The first garden ship bloomed in the darkness of space, its crystal hull shimmering with streams of green and blue light. Instead of metal plates, living crystal petals formed its outer shell. Where weapon ports would normally be, flower-like structures opened and closed, ready to spread life instead of destruction. Root and Walker stood in the control room, which felt more like a garden than a ship's bridge. Living vines wrapped around control panels, and the walls pulsed with soft light. Human crew members worked alongside Florins, their stations a mix of standard controls and crystal interfaces. Beautiful, Root whispered, their glow reflecting off the crystal walls. I never imagined our garden technology could become something so powerful. Walker nodded, still amazed by what they had created. The ship was named Hope's Garden, and it was unlike anything either species had built before. Are the defense systems ready? Yes, Root answered, connecting to the ship's living systems through their tendrils. The seed pods are charged with energy. When they hit a void ship, they won't just attack. They'll try to grow, to change it from inside. The ship's alerts suddenly flashed red. Tom's voice came through the speakers. Captain, we've got incoming. 3 void ships just appeared near the outer colony. Walker straightened his uniform. This was the moment of truth. Take us in. Let's show them what happens when you threaten both our peoples. The Hope's Garden moved with incredible grace for something so large. As they approached the colony, they could see the destruction already beginning. The void ships were massive black crystals that seemed to swallow light itself. Where they touched the colony's outer gardens, everything withered and died. Ready the seed pods, Walker commanded. Root's colors shifted to a determined gold as they activated the ship's new systems. The flower-like ports opened fully, glowing with intense light. Pods away, Root called. Streams of brilliant energy shot from the ship, each carrying specially engineered seeds. Where they struck the first void ship, points of light bloomed across its dark surface. At first, nothing seemed to happen. Then, slowly, patches of green began to appear on the void ship's crystal hull. The darkness began to crack, letting light shine through from inside. It's working. Root's excitement made their whole body pulse with light. The seeds are taking root. They're converting the void ship's energy into life. The void ship tried to pull away, but it was too late. Like watching a time-lapse of a garden growing, plants, and crystal formations spread across its surface. Its darkness faded, replaced by colors that shifted from deep purple to bright green. The other two void ships turned to attack, but the Hope's Garden was ready. More seed pods launched, spreading life instead of death. The human weapons officers, trained to destroy, now found themselves carefully targeting spots where their garden weapons would grow best. "Look at the colony," one of the crew members shouted. The withered sections were coming back to life. The garden ship wasn't just fighting the Void Collective. It was healing the damage they had caused. The battle ended faster than anyone expected. Where 3 void ships had been, there were now 3 new gardens floating in space, their crystal structures transformed from darkness into light. Root connected to them through the ship's systems, their glow brightening with wonder. "They're alive," they reported. "Different from before, but alive. The hunger is gone, replaced with growth." Walker watched as small Floran ships approached the transformed void ships, ready to tend these new space gardens. "We didn't just stop them," he said quietly. "We changed them, showed them another way to exist." Root turned to the captain, their colors showing deep emotion. "This is why we chose humans as allies. Any other species would have tried only to destroy. You helped us find a way to turn destruction into creation." The Hope's Garden's success was quickly sent to both Earth and the Floran homeworld. More garden ships were already growing in special docks, combining the best of both species. But as Walker looked at the transformed void ships, he realized they had created more than just a defense system. They had proven that life and growth could overcome even the darkest forces in the galaxy. "Send word to the fleet," Walker said. "Tell them Hope's Garden is ready to protect any world that needs us. And tell them," he smiled at Root, "tell them to bring plenty of seeds. We've got a lot of gardens to grow." The Paradise System's 3 suns cast golden light across the largest fleet ever assembled in known space. 20 garden ships formed a protective ring around the Floran homeworld, their crystal hulls reflecting starlight in waves of green and blue. Behind them, 30 Earth warships stood ready, their metal hulls modified with living crystal armor. Walker stood on the bridge of the Hope's Garden, now scared but stronger from previous battles. Root worked at the main console, their glow steady and determined. The last month had seen victory after victory as their garden ships transformed void vessels into spaces of life and growth. But this was different. "How many?" Walker asked, though he already knew the answer. 200 void ships, Tom reported from his station. "Maybe more. They're blocking out the light from the outer system." "This is their entire fleet." Root's colors flickered with concern. "They know they're losing. This is their final attack. They mean to consume everything at once." The crew watched as the massive dark fleet approached. The Void Collective had learned from their previous defeats. Their ships moved in tight formations, protecting each other from the transformative seed pods. Black crystal structures extended between their vessels, forming a web of darkness that absorbed any light that touched it. "They've adapted," Walker said quietly, "just like we hoped they wouldn't." A soft light filled the bridge as Elder Green's image appeared in their communication crystal. "Captain Walker, Root, the Council is watching. Many still doubt this alliance will hold in the face of such odds." Walker looked at his crew, humans and Florans working side by side, no longer separated by their differences. "Let them watch. Let them see what happens when the galaxy's most peaceful species and humanity stand together." The Void Fleet struck like a wave of darkness. Their new tactics were devastating. When one ship was hit by seed pods, others would cut away the affected areas before the transformation could spread. They had learned to sacrifice parts of themselves to prevent total conversion. "Formation Alpha," Walker commanded. The garden ships moved in perfect sync, their patterns inspired by the way Floran flowers opened to catch sunlight. Waves of seed pods launched from multiple ships at once, targeting the same points in the Void Fleet's defenses. But it wasn't enough. The darkness kept coming. 3 garden ships were surrounded, and their light dimmed as the Void ships drained their energy. Earth vessels moved in to cover their retreat, but the Void Collective's numbers seemed endless. "Captain," Root called, their voice urgent. "I have an idea. It's dangerous, but the Void ships are all connected now. If we could reach the center of their formation." Walker understood immediately. A chain reaction. If we can transform one ship in the center, it would spread through their connecting structures before they could cut them away. Root finished. "But we have to get very close." Too close. Walker looked at the battle raging around them. They were losing ships too quickly. Soon the Void Fleet would reach the Floran homeworld, and all their victories would mean nothing. "Hope's Garden will go," he said firmly. "We're the fastest, and our crystal systems are the strongest." The crew, human and Floran alike, stood straighter at his words. They had started this journey together. They would see it through together. The Hope's Garden broke formation, diving straight toward the heart of the Void Fleet. Enemy ships swarmed around them, draining their energy, but the Garden ship's crystal hull blazed with stored sunlight from 3 stars. Root connected directly to the ship's systems, directing every scrap of power to their engines and shields. They reached the center of the Void formation. The darkness was complete here. No starlight penetrated this deep into the enemy fleet. But the Hope's Garden carried its own light. "Now," Walker commanded. Root released everything. All their power, all their stored energy, all their accumulated seeds. The ship's crystal hull cracked as it gave up its own substance to power this final attack. Light exploded outward from their position, carrying life-changing seeds in every direction. The Void ship's connecting structures worked against them. The transformation spread like lightning through their dark web, too fast to cut away. Ship after ship bloomed with sudden light and life, the change cascading outward in a wave of creation. Walker helped Root stand as their ship's systems stabilized. Through their view screen, they watched darkness turn to light across the entire enemy fleet. Where there had been a web of destruction, there was now a vast garden growing in space. "Beautiful," Root whispered, their glow returning. "We didn't just win. We made something new." The Earth ships and remaining Garden ships moved in to help stabilize the transformed Void fleet. Already, small differences could be seen in how each ship bloomed, some with red crystal flowers, others with blue or gold. The Void Collective's hunger for sameness had been replaced with life's natural drive toward diversity. Elder Green's image appeared again, their ancient form glowing with joy. "The Council sees," they said simply. "They finally understand what we saw in humanity from the start." 1 year after the great battle in the Paradise System, the view from space had changed completely. The transformed Void ships had become floating gardens, their once dark crystals now blooming with life. Paths of living light connected them, creating a network of gardens that stretched across the stars. The Hope's Garden drifted slowly through this new space forest, its battle scars now covered with fresh crystal growth. Inside, Captain Walker walked through corridors that had changed as much as the ship itself. Humans and Florans moved together with practiced ease, their different ways of thinking now a strength instead of a barrier. "The last sector is stable," Root reported, their glow bright with pride. They had grown taller over the past year, their crystal form showing traces of the same strength that marked the ship's hull. "The new gardens are teaching us things we never knew about life in space." Walker nodded, looking out at the transformed ships. Each one had grown differently, creating unique patterns of light and life. "How are the former Void Collective members adapting?" "Better than we hoped," Root answered, leading the way to the observation deck. "Once we removed their endless hunger, they remembered what they used to be. Explorers, like us. Now they help us grow new gardens, adding their own ideas to our designs." The observation deck had become a meeting place for both species. Today, Elder Green waited for them there, their ancient form resting among earth plants that grew alongside Floran crystal flowers. The mix of green leaves and glowing crystals had become a common sight throughout human and Floran space. "The Council has finished their assessment, Elder Green announced as Walker and Root entered. They say this past year has changed the galaxy more than the previous 1,000. Through the wide windows, they could see one of the new garden ships taking shape. Unlike the first garden ships built for battle, this one was being grown together by humans, Florans, and reformed Void members from the start. Its design combined the strength of human engineering, the life-giving power of Floran crystals, and the unique energy-shaping abilities they had learned from the transformed Void ships. "Did you ever imagine this?" Walker asked, watching teams of workers from all 3 species moving around the new ship. "When you first decided to ask humans for help?" Elder Green's colors shifted in what Walker had learned was their version of a smile. "We knew humans were different. We saw your capacity for growth, your drive to protect. But this," they gestured at the living garden of ships around them, "this has exceeded even our highest hopes." Root moved to one of the crystal interfaces, bringing up images from across known space. Everywhere, things were changing. Human colonies now grew living buildings alongside their metal ones. Floran worlds had started developing new types of gardens that included defensive systems, not to fight but to protect and nurture. The transformed Void ships had become centers of learning, where all species could study how to balance growth with protection. "The trading worlds have requested their first garden ship," Root reported, their colors showing amusement. "The same ones who said humans were too primitive to help us." Walker laughed. The Metal Lord had personally visited the Paradise system to apologize for his earlier doubts. Now he was one of the strongest supporters of the Human-Floran Alliance. "We're receiving more requests for joint colonies," Root continued. "Places where humans and Florans can live together, teaching each other. And the reformed Void members want to join too." Elder Green moved to the window, their globe mixing with the starlight. "When we faced destruction, we could have chosen any of the powerful species to help us. They would have fought with their weapons and their fleets. But we chose humans because you showed us a different way. We learned as much from you," Walker said. "Humans always thought we had to choose between being peaceful or being strong. You taught us we could be both." Root's colors brightened suddenly. "Look," they pointed out the window, where the new garden ship was unfurling its first crystal petals. In the space between the petals, small earth flowers had begun to grow, their simple beauty complementing the complex crystal patterns. "That's what we created together," Elder Green said softly. "Not just ships or gardens or alliances. We created a new way of living. The galaxy's most peaceful species and humanity's determined defenders showed everyone that the greatest strength comes from nurturing life, not destroying it." Walker watched as more flowers bloomed in space, their light joining the endless field of stars. The galaxy had changed, and with it, both their species had grown into something new. Not warriors or pacifists, but protectors and creators, working together to fill the darkness with light.